man, these stories are getting weirder and weirder. They really are.
Yeah.
Like, this is sad. This is just sad. So, for those of you who don't know, Laura Loomer is a real big right-wing freak. She's the one with the strange face. And it's true. She's strange face. It's just accurate.
Yeah, and you can't even say, like, she wasn't born with a strange face.
No.
Like, she actively decided to make her face look like that.
Yeah, I don't know what she did, but she looks like a vampire now. It's unfortunate. But she has been around Donald Trump a lot lately. In fact, there were reports that she was with Donald Trump right before the debate. She's been hanging around his orbit. Mm-hmm. And this is not a good person to have near you if you care about political strategy and, let's say, winning the election. Not the way to go. So she is extremely far right, extremely bizarre. She was the one who went on Tim Pool's show and basically said that Trump should execute Democrats for treason, and Tim had to pull down that episode. Even Tim was like,
okay, I got to take this down.
Well, in the moment, he was sort of like kind of going along with it, but then he had to pull it down because, it's against the terms of service to do threats of violence like that. But anyway, so this person's hanging around Trump, and she had some thoughts for us on Kamala Harris, and this was so extreme that even other far-right members of MAGA had massive issues with it.
Yes. So Laura Loomer tweets, if Kamala Harris wins...
Throw that up, guys.
The White House will smell like curry, and White House speeches will be facilitated via a call center, and the American people will only be able to convey their feedback through a customer satisfaction survey at the end of the call that nobody will understand. So that's her tweet.
You get it? You get it? Like Indians, curry, call centers, you get it, bro? You get it?
It's not even like original racism. It's not even entertaining racism. It's just like gross and bad and dumb.
I know. Like,
and this is who, to your point, like, this was someone who was involved in Trump's debate prep, who was like on the plane with him and has been on the plane. She went with him to the like 9/11 ceremony thing, that the remembrance. And she, I think, also was one that said that 9/11 was an inside job. But, well, there you go.
There are areas where she might make sense.
There are many good people who might share that opinion. But anyway, so this is someone who is not just some random crank. She has the ear of Donald Trump, perhaps more than like anyone else in the moment.
I wonder why Trump brought up they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets. I wonder why he brought that up. And then that led to universal mockery. Kamala was laughing in the moment. Yeah. All of the national media was like, yeah, we fact-checked that, and that's not remotely true.
Even the Republican governor of Ohio came out and was like, this is just completely false.
But can we let's be clear about this, just so everybody understands. And you're the one who pointed this out to me. You know where this comes from? You know where this originates from? Like a literal neo-Nazi group.
Called Blood Pure.
Called Blood Pure, or Blood Purity, something like that.
Blood Pure.
And they came up with the lie, and the lie spread like wildfire. And like, this is where we're at in our politics now, where
a literal neo-Nazi
Nazi group says something,
smear ends up being spouted for the former president on a debate stage.
And it's mainstream MAGA stuff as a direct result. And look, this is what happens when Elon Musk puts front and center the far right on Twitter. They're in their little echo chamber bubble, jacking each other off about how right they are about everything.
That's right.
Memeing about Donald Trump saving cats. And the rest of the country is looking at them like, what the fuck are you guys talking about?
Literally, the ones who understood what they were talking about were utterly disgusted by it, and the ones who aren't right-wing hacks, by the way. And the normal people who, by and large, listen to it were just like, literally, what the fuck are you on about right now? Like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So, yeah, we've been talking about this privately, and you have a theory of Donald Trump's media evolution and how that has shifted him and caused him to lose any of the elements that were like interesting about him in 2016. In 2016, he really was like, he sort of was like a New York Post tabloid guy. Like, I feel like that was his sensibility, like very raunchy and sensationalist, but, at least had some connectivity to how normal people thought about things.
Like Ted Cruz's dad killing JFK. That's definitely tabloid stuff.
Right? Right?
That
It would
is
be
tabloid,
something that, you know, and what's the name of the guy who actually ran the National Enquirer?
Oh.
Who was like his buddy. I mean, that was his world. The tabloid,
He's got a weird name.
The tabloid world was his thing, where it was like, you know, what was on at the supermarket checkout line and the celebrity gossip and all that kind of stuff. Like, that was him. That's, you know, think about like
David Pecker.
David Pecker. Yes, that's it. That's it. So anyway, 2016, he's like tabloid, sort of like how Piers Morgan is, right? Also another tabloid guy. Like, that's kind of the sensibility.
But fingers somewhat on the pulse too with random economic populism at times.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, raunchy sensationalist, but has some finger on the pulse. Okay, 2020, you point out.
Fox News grandpa.
Fox News grandpa.
Yeah.
Right? That's where he gets totally, you know, into this mainstream but conservative echo chamber.
Sean Hannity, right.
And that's what the 2020 campaign is. Although there was some dabbling with some like super online stuff there too, but
not as much.
Not as much as now.
Right.
And now was kicked off Twitter for a while. Starts Truth Social, where he's fully immersed in like the most fringe psycho internet brainwormed stuff of all time. And now Elon owns Twitter, so Twitter is just like, you know, Truth Social light basically at this point. And that's who Trump is now. Like, that's who he sees these memes about cats in Ohio, and he thinks that this really owns the libs and this is a winner.
Yeah, and this is like people all across the country are tweeting these memes, sir.
Right.
Like, no, they're not. Even Richard Spencer, who was a leader of the alt-right, came out and said, and since then he's tried to like rebrand and tried to not be alt-right anymore or whatever, but he was like, look, back in 2016, this would be shit that you'd see on 4chan that would not make it into the mainstream, that helped build this like subculture insular group of far-right freaks.
Right.
But now this is mainstream shit, and it's never gonna work. You look so insane when you say stuff like this. Did we even show the Marjorie Taylor Greene response yet?
No, we haven't.
Okay,
so we haven't even gotten to that. So the Laura Loomer thing was so gross. And also, I think these two have just like personal beef. I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know that it's really like Marjorie Taylor Greene is like so principled. But anyway,
no, it's not that.
She quote tweets Laura Loomer's previous insanity about the curry in the White House, et cetera, and says, "This is appalling and extremely racist. It does not represent who we are as Republicans or MAGA." Sure about that, Marjorie? This does not represent President Trump. I'm sure about that, Marjorie. This type of behavior should not be tolerated ever. Laura Loomer should take this down. And by the way, they've been like fighting, to use the cats thing, like cats and dogs, ever since this post was made. So, yeah.
So they've always hated each other, these two. Their beef goes back quite a while. And I got to be honest, I think the reason why Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying this is because she's kind of jealous that Laura Loomer is the one now.
She's on the plane.
That's
She's got the
Trump's
ear.
right-hand woman.
Yeah.
And she feels like this person's dumb. This person isn't principled. They're a grifter, et cetera, et cetera. And so she sees an angle here where she can attack Laura Loomer from more of a mainstream perspective to try to portray herself as, I'm the reasonable one, I'm the moderate one, I'm the one trying to help Trump and steer his campaign in the right direction.
Well,
but make no mistake about it. That's some shit. Like, she's the one who said like Jewish space lasers back in the day. She's also said some of the dumbest shit you've ever heard in your life. It's truly not a principled thing by any stretch of the imagination.
Right. Yeah. Well, it also comes at a moment when we all know Trump face plants, gets destroyed by Kamala Harris, which has to be one of the most humiliating things that has ever happened to him in his entire life, because he thinks he has complete and total contempt for her. And he's a racist and a misogynist. So for a black woman to just humiliate him in that way, I think has been you could see him coping and struggling in real time. But we all know he's not going to blame himself. So there's, I'm sure, behind the scenes with all of his various sycophants, all kinds of backstabbing, throwing this one under the bus, throwing that one under the bus, et cetera, jockeying for position. And so into the breach, this is, Marjorie Taylor Greene's attempt to kind of like knife Laura Loomer as Trump is searching for who's going to be the scapegoat.
But I think, here's the crazy thing. I think Trump genuinely thinks Laura Loomer is smart. Because he likes to surround himself with more attractive women. Think of like Alina Habba, for example, Hope Hicks, people like that. And it's sort of like a power thing for him. I'm stealing this, by the way, from Felix from Chapo and from Hassan. They made this point. It's like Trump does not find Laura Loomer attractive, but she's still around him, which means he probably genuinely thinks she gives good advice, good political advice.
Yeah.
Which is even more embarrassing, honestly.
Well, I'm putting a couple things together. He's been praising Jesse Waters' coverage of his debate performance because Jesse was like, he had all the memorable lines.
Oh
like,
my God.
Run, spot, run, and like they're eating the pets and whatever. Like he's the one whose lines you remember. And so that's why this is great for him. And I don't know that Trump really understands that the cats and dogs thing was a train wreck for him because
even now you don't think he knows?
He can't discern good publicity from bad publicity. And that line got a lot of attention. So, and Laura Loomer was probably part of putting that line and making that, putting that in his
100%.
head. And
it wasn't Chris LaCivita telling Trump.
Like, talk about them eating the dogs.
I love how Trump couldn't even get the facts right in his fake news story. Yeah. It's just like, they're eating giraffes, and they're eating the camels. They're eating the camels, folks.
The guinea pigs. Yeah.
It's like, no, it wasn't even dogs. The fake news story is that it's cats and geese, you fucking idiot.
Anyway, I'm sure after the debate, Laura's whispering in his ear, like, that was brilliant. Look how they're all talking about you. Look at how this moment is spread. Look at all these memes online that they're sharing, blah, blah, blah. And so I don't know that he sees that as a bad moment for him. I don't know.
That would be insane.
Yeah.
Here's what Kamala did that was so brilliant. She baited him time after time.
Very intentionally.
So on the topic of immigration, which is supposed to be his strength, she makes a side comment about people are leaving your rallies, bro. I mean, dog, they think you're kind of boring, son. What the fuck, bro? And
when he was supposed to, his face in real time.
And then he just, like a fish,
yeah, just
can't help it. I got to talk about that, and I got to spend all my time on that because my ego is bruised.
Because the moderator even goes, after Kamala says the thing about the rallies, the moderator tries to bring it back to immigration. And it's like, I
have to talk about the crowd size real quick.
Ask some follow-up question on immigration. He's like, I'll get to that, but I got to weigh in on the rallies. And it's like, oh my God. The other thing is, I was just reading Axios report. His advisors told him, this is her strategy. This is what she's going to try to do. And they practice in their debate prep. I think Matt Gaetz was like trying to, really needle him and would, play the part of like, I'm going to go after you on your rallies or whatever. And Trump had supposedly a plan to calmly bring it back to his talking points about how the failed Biden-Harris and she's a Marxist or whatever. And just once he started seeing red in that debate, it was over. And she had him in the palm of her hand.
You could tell from her face, too.
Oh, she knew she got him.
It's like after Steph Curry knocks down like a perfect three.
Yeah.
Just this look like,
yeah.
Go ahead, do your thing. Go ahead.
Her face was so relaxed. She was having a great time up there. The minute that he took that bait on the rally, she was like, oh,
I can't believe this worked. This worked.
And that was the one where he starts going off about the pets too. And like in your wildest dreams, preparing for a debate, you could not imagine that he would fuck it up that badly.
But this is who he surrounded himself with.
Shit. Yeah, it's only gonna get worse because Sagar made this point debate night. I think it's a very intelligent point. Like,
yeah, I've repeated it. I know the point you're gonna make.
The Chris LaCivita and Susie Wiles, these like more mainstream Republican figures that are heading his campaign. If they don't get kicked out, he is not going to listen to them anymore.
Nope. Now it's going to be
all he
Lewandowski,
wants to hear now
Stephen Miller
is whoever is going to suck up to him.
Sir, you did great. That was your best debate performance yet, sir.
Yes, the people who are so shameless, like Laura Loomer, that they would be willing to tell him like the pets and dogs thing landed.
But what's so incredible is that like Steve Bannon is a disgusting person and a criminal.
Yeah.
But he was way smarter than the likes of Laura Loomer.
Absolutely.
He's the guy who came up, like, they were aggressive strategies, but they were intelligent aggressive strategies. He's the one who came up with, let's bring all of Bill Clinton's accusers to the debate after the grab him by the pussy tape came out of Trump.
Yeah.
And Trump came out there, listened to Steve Bannon's advice, and he made it a wash. He made it a wash.
Yeah.
Oh, I was doing some locker room talk. Bill Clinton's been accused of rape and sexual assault and harassment from all these different women. Oh, by the way, there they are in the stands. Why don't you put the camera on them? Mm-hmm. Brilliant. If you're listening to Laura Loomer, she has the IQ of a mosquito. She thinks, oh, yeah, this is really landing. This really has a normie touch to it when you talk about Haitian immigrants eating fucking cats and dogs. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Of course, every media outlet's going to be like, hey, we looked into it. Turns out that's totally bogus, and it's based on a racist lie stemming from a literal neo-Nazi group.
Neo-Nazis.
Unbelievable.
Here's the other thing is, we've talked about this before, too. Obviously, plenty of Americans harbor racist thoughts, whatever, intentional, unintentional, etc. However, the vast majority of Americans do not want to see themselves as racist. And so when you make your whole anti-immigrant ploy so brazenly, outwardly racist, like literally grabbing onto the Nazi made-up memes and making them the center of your campaign, you deny people the plausible deniability of saying, oh, this is really about jobs. It's really about housing. It's like, no, at what point are you just like, no, this is about racism. This is just about racism, pure and simple. And so he really did damage to himself on the issue that is his strongest by polling issue. Because think about what Kamala Harris got out of having to do in that debate. You know, she managed to not. I hate the way that Democrats have approached immigration. I hate the way they've ceded the ground to the right-wing view that immigrants are bad, whole stop, that they're not a net benefit for the country, which they very clearly and obviously by every number and every metric are. I hate that. Kamala Harris didn't have to say anything about immigration. She didn't have to piss me off. She didn't have to piss the right-wingers off. She didn't get pressed on it because she tossed this bone of the rally thing and he goes down the rabbit hole and makes himself look so incredibly racist and extreme in the process.
She did what I told you she was going to do. I told you she has an easy deflection. We just created a bipartisan bill that adds 1,500 new border agents there, and you're the one who killed it. Because you would rather have a campaign win than an actual win for the country.
Yeah.
So she says that, and then she baits him.
Yeah.
And he crumbled.
Yeah.
So I think she came on that. I think she came out just the 100% victor.
Yeah.
You know?
You know, I like I said, I hate the overall Democratic Party approach.
You have a principal disagreement.
No, it's not just a principal disagreement. I also have an electoral disagreement because in the short, like in that moment, it's a good line. And I think it does land with people, the whole thing of like, he just wants to run on a problem. He doesn't want to solve a problem. But when you look at the numbers, like Americans have almost never been more anti-immigrant than they are right now. And that is a direct result of Democrats just completely ceding the ground. So by failing to marshal a real opposition to the anti-immigrant sentiment on the right, they have increased the salience of that issue and given the right much more to work with. Because, yeah, if your whole thing is just like immigrants are bad and we need to close the border, you're going to vote for Republicans. You're not voting for Kamala Harris.
But they don't, like, the thing is, Democrats, in terms of how they govern, they just don't disagree that much with Republicans. They just don't.
Yeah.
And that's been the case under Obama, that's the case under Biden, and that's the case under what Kamala says her administration is going to be.
The one time when they rhetorically even tried to really disagree was during the Trump administration.
And rhetoric doesn't mean anything.
And sure, from a policy perspective, rhetoric doesn't mean anything. But when the Democratic Party was affirmatively making a pro-immigrant case, the pro-immigrant sentiment in the country was nearly at all-time highs.
Right, and that's when Trump was doing family separation, and they were like, this is a bridge too far, and this is extreme.
Where you can actually see the horrible impact of this policy, which is why, you know, I mean, I know the anti-immigrant sentiment is very high right now. If he actually implemented the type of policies he's talking about, like, people would be horrified. People would be horrified by what that would actually look like in our towns and cities and for human beings. So I'm so disgusted with that whole conversation. I'm so the fake Venezuelan apartment thing is so grotesque, so predictable, and just utterly disgusting. But yeah, I do think that it's possible Trump has convinced himself that this was like a win for him because now people are talking about what he wants them to be talking about, this like, you know, disgusting migrant smear. Which
is insane because she dominated that portion of the debate and it's supposed to be his strongest issue.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the Elon Musk thing.
Yeah, so speaking of disgusting, after the debate, Taylor Swift comes out, endorses Kamala Harris, includes a picture of her with her cat, and signs it
a childless cat lady. She also shouts out Tim Walz. She says, I love this guy, Tim Walz, and what he did to protect LGBTQ people. So she's referencing specifically his social policies.
Yeah.
Anybody who loves Tim Walz is a friend of mine, you know, but Taylor, I would just go one step further. His economic shit is amazing too.
Yes, indeed. So, yeah, so Elon Musk decided he should weigh in on this. And another thing Taylor brought up in that also was like, you know, I think she talked about the right to choose also and how that was important. Anyway.
Yeah, with social issues.
Yeah.
She's a social liberal is what she is.
That's what she is. Elon Musk tweets, "Fine, Taylor, you win. I will give you a child and guard your cats with my life." Disgusting. Just like the creepy, that's one of the creepiest tweets I've actually ever read.
So what does he think he's accomplishing there? What does he think? Does he think he's like, tee hee, ha ha, hee hee, here I am in lay Reddit mode, lay 4chan mode, and this is like, we're having fun and joking? Is that what he thinks is going on?
I guess.
I literally don't. I'm trying to get inside his head. What are you doing? What is this?
I don't know who he thought this was going to land with.
I know
Because
that
it comes across as like pathetic and sad too. It comes across very incel.
I know that some of his supporters have this weird fantasy of like Taylor Swift and Elon Musk getting together.
Really?
And yes, and they've made like creepy memes of it in the past.
Serious?
And I think he's even weighed in on it in the past too. Is that what's in his mind? That like he sees her, oh, childless cat lady, and he's like, fine, I'll step in, bro. Let's make a baby together. But like you said, this is like hyper autistic and unable to read the room.
Yeah.
Hyper autistic and unable to read the room.
Yeah.
First of all, how old is he? 50 something?
I don't know.
He's an overweight 50 something year old weirdo who spends 90% of his time online getting sucked off by his fans.
The amount of time he spends and posts on Twitter is like
disgusting.
Utterly disturbing.
And he's another one of these idiots who, you know, it's the trajectory thing again. The trajectory thing. Oh yeah, no, bro, I'm a liberal. Oh no, I'm a centrist. I'm an enlightened centrist. Bro, am I spreading Nazi memes? Whatever, bro. Now I guess I'm that. You know what I mean? It's the like you guys have all self-radicalized in the most embarrassing way possible.
Yeah.
From literal dumbass boomer Facebook memes, you've now based your politics around that.
Yeah. Well, and I think Elon was a part of, you know, Trump ending up picking J.D. Vance.
Yeah, him and Tucker Carlson were.
Which is a disaster for him. I mean, this really relates to the previous conversation about the freak online subculture, like weirdos that Trump is now surrounded by and thinks are smart and influential and whatever. And, you know, Elon has turned Twitter into, as I said before, like true social light, and it's thinking that he's helping the Republicans, thinking he's helping Trump. I mean,
hilarious.
He's a massive Trump donor now, like he's out with his support, which is also such an irony that Republicans complain so much about what they perceived as bias from Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey or whatever.
Right.
And now you have a guy who literally is out front with his Trump support and running his platform in a way that he thinks will be beneficial, and they don't seem to have a problem with that when it comes to Elon Musk. But I don't think this has served them whatsoever, because it has convinced them, it has made them high on their own supply and convinced them that these like insane fringe weirdos, people who have inspired J.D. Vance apparently, that this has any sort of connectivity to mainstream culture or what people actually want.
Yeah, these people truly are just weird. There's that famous Stefan Molyneux tweet where he talks about how, oh, Taylor's so attractive. It's a shame that by the time she's 40, some percentage of her eggs die. And blah, blah. There was that. Dave Rubin came out in response to this Elon story, and he says, quote, Taylor Swift, you are a young, pretty girl. Do you know what the gang members from Venezuela do to a young, pretty girl? It ain't pretty.
Ugh.
Like what? The degree of social denseness here is astronomical, right?
Yeah.
Like, why are you guys, why, she just endorses a candidate, by the way, because Trump was pretending like Taylor endorsed her. She felt like she was forced to do it. You know what I mean? She wanted to correct the record. Because my guess is she wouldn't have said anything if Trump wasn't running with fake memes of Taylor endorsing her.
That certainly forced her hand.
Yeah, definitely, because now she's like, well, I have to correct the record.
Yeah.
But their mind goes right to weird sex stuff. When she just is saying like, hey, I like Tim Walz, I'm going to vote for Kamala, and here's why, here are the policy things. They're like, what about sex, bro? Like, what are you talking about sex for? Like, what is this?
Right.
What does this have to do with anything?
Right.
I guess the childless cat lady thing, Elon's like, well, I'll make you not childless anymore, but that almost reads, I mean, I don't think he meant it this way, but it almost reads like a fucking threat, right?
Yeah.
And then you're Travis Kelce, and you're looking at this, and you're like, there was a fake tweet of his going around. It wasn't real, but he was like, I could twist you like a pretzel or something like that.
Yeah, which he could.
Oh, he absolutely could. Yeah. He absolutely could. But yeah, like, I think the main takeaway from both of these stories we discussed is the creeping extremism, where these people somehow have convinced themselves they're acting totally normal.
Yeah.
They're acting normal, and they're the cool ones, and they're the edgy ones, and all this stuff. And guys, any normie American is looking at this shit, and they're rolling their eyes, and they're going, ugh.
it's
right?
repulsive.
Of
it's
course.
actually repellent.
Of course.
And now it makes sense, because we swim in these waters too much, it, made sense to us too quickly. But the way JD Vance has repeatedly talked on these various podcasts, about childless Cali and the postmenopausal females and all this stuff, like that language is very mild and moderate in these spaces. And because people were, he had to overcome the fact that he previously said Trump might be America's Hitler and get back in their good graces, he adopted all of this like weird online subculture shit. And then Trump, puts him on the ticket and brings that baggage directly in and then surrounds himself with Laura Loomer. And Jack Posobiec was also apparently in the debate prep, Pizzagate guy.
He was in the debate prep?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. By the way, I'm not kidding when I say that guy makes up more shit on the internet than anybody I've ever seen.
Oh, you know who else was in there?
Who?
Libs of TikTok lady, Chaya Rychik.
Jack Posobiec pretends to have sources inside the Kamala campaign and inside the Biden administration. Total fucking lie.
Just make shit up.
Total lie.
Just absolutely
He was one of the original
up.
Pizzagate guys. I mean, these people, guys, it's not like this isn't, this is what I want to be clear to people. This isn't just, hey, I have ideological disagreements and differences with these people.
Right.
No. These people are fucking brazen liars and complete and utter frauds.
Yeah.
And he was one of the people who initially pressed the whole, the Haitian migrants are eating cats thing.
Yep.
It was Jack Posobiec, and then you said it was signal boosted by Elon Musk and shit like that.
Yeah.
And by the way,
JD Vance tweeted about it.
Jesus Christ. One more thing. The amount of, if you told me this 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I would have rolled my eyes at you and said, you're being hyperbolic. If you told me there's going to come a time when like Hitler apologia is mainstream on Twitter, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. There's a lot of right wingers. Yeah, I get it. They say fucked up things from time to time, but there's, what is there, a Nazi behind every corner? Like, what are you talking about? This is absurd.
Right.
But now you look and it's just like, there are literal tweets that are like, this man was right.
Yeah.
And it shows a picture of Adolf Hitler.
And it's got like 50,000 likes or whatever.
What happened with Daryl Cooper, who, he was on Tucker's show and he says Churchill is the chief villain of World War II. Then he does all this historical revisionism about how, bro, Hitler wanted peace. He kept calling for peace. Why, bro, did you not see? He was calling for... You're taking the Nazi propaganda line at face value?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here? And this shit is mainstream now. And then Tucker had to try to defend himself after it. Did not show any remorse whatsoever.
But look at how successful Candace is right now.
Right, yeah.
And she'd just go all in on the wildest anti-Semitic conspiracy bullshit you can possibly imagine. And anyone who tries to criticize her, they pay a cost in the right-wing ecosystem. Kanye West, I guess, was a trailblazer. He was just a little bit ahead of the curve because they're to go back to the original conversation about Trump and his evolution, like in 2016, he would have given like a little wink and a nod to those online 4chan kind of subcultures.
I don't even know who David Duke is. Who's David Duke?
Now it's just out front. He's leading with it. Like it's central to his whole campaign. Complete mask off. And it is really disturbing. It is really disturbing.
Kamala said in the debate, he's going to go back to immigration even when the question is not about immigration.
Yeah.
Watch, he's going to do that. Then he did it like 4 or 5 times.
That was smart how she laid that out.
Brilliant. It was brilliant.
Very smart.
Because that is, to the extent any policy actually motivates him, the one thing seems to be, I want to do mass deportation. That's the one thing that he seemingly truly believes in to his core, right? And like we've pointed out before, this time there's no brakes in the car. He's only picking the most hardcore sycophantic loyalists. That's why J.D. Vance is his VP. Because J.D. Vance said, I would have sent alternate slates of electors. I wouldn't have done what Mike Pence did.
Yeah.
This is why he picked him. This is why he's going to pick everybody else around him, too. So it's dark, man. Twitter has become the biggest fucking cesspool I've ever seen in my life.
It's disgusting.
And the fact that they think, like, they're smart, they're intelligent, they're nailing it, they're edgy, like, they're on the cutting edge. Like, no, you're a bunch of fucking liars and freaks. Is what you are. And it's so clear. It's so clear.
Yeah, and the incentives there are just grotesque.
I know.
Like, the incentive is to be the most unhinged, weirdo, offensive, lying freak. Like, you will reliably build an audience doing that. And so that's what you get. That's who rises to the top.